You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions. Your host tonight is the author of the Pro-Black Compendium and Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, the Pan-African Nationalist, Oni. Oni, what are we discussing tonight?
Peace, brother. Peace, sister. I'm glad that you've come to join me today as I speak about a question that I find very important and imperative for the future of African people. On the continent today, we have our brothers and sisters working very hard to change the governments and the governmental structures of our native land. But they are transforming this government and governmental structure back into the expectations of what our enemies would want upon us. And I say this particularly to say that we must encounter and we must answer the problem, which is, should the African activists try to impose a system of democracy upon the African population? Now, many of you wonder, what is wrong with democracy? Growing up at the sucker, growing up on the tit of this white man and this white woman, all they have told you was that you must follow their democratic plans. You must follow their democracies, follow in the footsteps of their ancient Greeks and their ancient Romans. That whiteness is superior and blackness is inferior. That is all you have ever heard. But I'm here to tell you, they lied to you. They lied to you. We're going to do something different today. And I'm glad that you've joined me. We're going to do something different. I want to speak to you about democracy and how we as African people are fooling ourselves by pursuing the route of imposing democracies on our great African land. Democracy is from ancient Athens, not from ancient Africa. Remember this. Democracy is from ancient Athens, not from ancient Africa. Before we talk about democracies, I want to discuss with you a term that is very important for us as a people to understand, and you've picked up on this term from last week. A leader. What is a leader? When I wrote the Pro-Black Compendium, I included a glossary. And on page 304, I wrote, a leader is the person a group follows and rewards or punishes according to the outcome of the person's decisions. We as black people need excellent decision making, because whatever decisions we make have consequences. And the leadership of African people has to understand not only that their decisions have consequences, but if their decisions are not good ones, that those consequences will be returned upon that leadership. Now, before we even go into the discussion of democracy, you already know, if the people, if the masses are the ones who are making the decisions, then who is punished or rewarded for what's going on? The masses? Come. Let me explain to you the system of democracy. The system of democracy, again, that was from ancient Athens, not ancient Africa. it only lasted 186 years. From 508 BCE, as they call it, before the Common Era, and to 322 BCE. The reason why it is venerated is because it is from Athens, and Athens is considered the birthplace of very notable Greek men. Notable such as Solon, Socrates, and Plato. But this is with irony. This is ironic. Because each of these quote-unquote outstanding whites, if whites could be outstanding, each of these outstanding whites should inform you against democracy. Mostly, and you have to understand this, mostly because although their birthplace was in Athens, Greece, their education was in Africa. You understand? So, whereas you may venerate this system for producing these notable whites, the only system you should venerate for producing notable individuals is your own African system. Socrates. See, I don't know how you spent your youth. Unfortunately, I spent my youth studying my enemies so that I will know more and do more and accomplish more than they will. So I studied Socrates. I'm familiar with Plato. I know of Solon. And before long, I will share with you what is important for you to know regarding democracy. First, we will start with Socrates. Socrates is a very interesting individual, if you will. His experience with democracy is very interesting, to say the least. At one point, he was participating in a quorum, and he found it lacking because they were voting. The democracy of Athens was voting on the death of certain generals who didn't rescue some survivors. So as they voted on these generals' death, Socrates didn't participate in the democracy. He didn't see it as, for whatever reason, he didn't participate. 7 years later, as he walked around Athens promoting ancient African virtues and spirituality, the democratic state of Athens voted for his death. In their own words, he was put on trial and executed for corrupting the young and believing in strange gods. You understand? So democracy, this venerable system, not only did not produce Socrates, but in its mass rulership, it killed Socrates. Now Plato follows, and Plato himself is another interesting one. He's a disciple of Socrates, another student of Africa's. Now Plato spends his life blaming democracy for the death of his instructor, and he's advocating for what he calls the republic, a system of government that is inspired by your ancestors. You understand? So here you have Plato, the philosopher par excellence in the Western canon, advocating for your system, but here you are advocating for the system he despises. this so-called great mind of Europe, the father, if you will, of European philosophy, himself railed against the system that he was born under. The next interesting individual you have to look at is Solon. Very relevant, notable Solon. He was considered as one of the 7 sages of ancient Greece, one of the 7 wisest people of ancient Greece. He was fundamental, foundational in the creation of democracy. He was not a creation of democracy, but a creator. Yet Solon has an interesting relationship with Africa. Okay? It is recorded that the ancient Africans have spoken to Solon. When he went to your ancestors, they told him, Solon, you Greeks are perennial infants. Not a single Greek is an elder. How does that translate? You whites will forever be children. Not a single white will ever be wise. That is what your ancestors told Solon. At that point in history, remember, they told Solon that their records and their government goes back at least 8,000 years. But you, black man, black woman, black child, wish to bring about this system whose creator your ancestors have called a fool. It's only fair to say now that democratic Athens had the highest population of enslaved people in all of ancient Greece. While not spoken of conclusively, this is likely because the spared time wasn't there for full participation otherwise. You must become serious about democracy, serious about the question of what system of government your people will fall under. Democracy brought about the likes of Trump. Democracy brought about the likes of Hitler, the likes of Hiroshima, the likes of the Ma'afa, your enslavement and your colonization, and the likes of white sovereignty at the expense of black sovereignty. Yet you think this system will bring you into a system unlike the circumstances of your ancestors. You will have to be mad. At present, the white man will tell you the choices between dictatorship and democracy. But how do you know when a white man is lying, but when his mouth is moving? The choice you have, black man, black woman, black child, is between 90,000 years of black culture and 3,000 years of white depravity. If your ancestors told you the wisest men of Europe were fools, and all of their children would be fools, then what kind of a fool are you to emulate and imitate them? It's time to get out your book. Open the Pro-Black Compendium to page 28. Keti the Seventh warns, copy your forefathers, for work is carried out through knowledge. Again, copy your forefathers, for work is carried out through knowledge. That quote is on the front cover of the book. It has to be. You must look at your own systems. You can look at the high culture of the Nile, the high culture of the Niger, the high culture of the Zambezi, and the high culture of the Congo, but leave the low culture of the Eurasian alone. Democracy cannot make sense when the esteemed elder of great vision and understanding has the same weight as the village fool. Page 63. Look at what the Congolese ancestors have said. Look at what your Congolese ancestors have said. Diela diakanda umbikudi. Translated, roughly translated and explained. The wisdom of the community prophesizes. The community sees farther than an individual can. Anyone who learns to see through the community's eyes, wisdom, is a bright person. A very bright person. Kala unlonge, akanda umbo, wazaya mayenda mukanda. Roughly translated. Be a community teacher, leader, in order to know what goes on within the community. The real wisdom of a society and its very basic needs are only known by those who mingle with the reality of people's daily lives in that society. In the Congo, these are community proverbs, community sayings, community wisdom passed down from generation to generation. Simplified, it says your leader should be bright and they should be minglers of the masses. But understand people, not all the masses will be bright, and they cannot all be minglers of the masses. You understand? And remember, brightness is not just sagacity. Sure, you can be a master healer, but that does not mean that you can be a master governor. You will also be a master governor necessarily. And if there are those who pursue the study of healing, the study of agriculture, the study of clothes making, there too should be people who pursue the study of governance, as we'll see later in the curriculum, in the book. But if this is the case, that there are those who will be students of governance and jurisprudence, students of good vision, students of ambition, if this is true, then why do we say their vote should be as another's? Or the other isn't as ambitious on seeing the full picture as the leader who mingles with the masses will be. Open to page 33. If the master teaches what is error, the disciple's submission is slavery. If the master teaches truth, This submission is ennoblement. Ancient African proverb, of course. Now look at page 12 and see what Dr. Ben had to say on this. Dr. Ben says, and what he says in general on our condition, he says, the fact is that we, all of us here, Africans, all, have been forced to live and perform at the bottom of the socio-political stratum of Europe, of European, British, European American, and Asian societies for the last 1,346 years. You must understand this. You have to reconcile these two ideas together. If the master is teaching error, the disciple's submission is enslavement. If the master teaches truth, the disciple's submission is ennoblement. If for the last 1,000+ years, black people have occupied the lowest strata of these foreigners' societies, then clearly they're foreigners, these foreigners and their foreign governments are not the truth that we need. Clearly, these foreigners and their foreign governments are the error that we are submitting to. Remember what Keti VII has said. Copy your forefathers. Your forefathers and your foremothers. John Henry Clark had said, page 40, African people need to stop shouting nation time until they are clear about the responsibilities of running a nation. Our ancestors have said, page 35, if you want to know the end, look at the beginning. Look at the beginning. The ancient Africans told you we can look back 8,000 years in the past. Athens only lasted 186 years. Athens democracy, 186 years. If you want to know the end, look at the beginning. Look at the beginning. Remember, it is not a matter of choosing your government as much as it is a matter of good government. Page 47. In ancient Africa, we would say defeat. We would say defeat Esfet, defend Ma'at. Defend Ma'at, defeat Esfet. For those who don't know, as I explain on page 155, or as Ptah explains on 155, great is Ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness. It is everlasting. Ma'at has been unchanged since the time of Asar. Government must understand Ma'at. It's a science, it's a study. How Ma'at applies to government is something leadership must study. Just as Ma'at applies to clothing, or Ma'at applies to food production, or Ma'at applies to the military structure. Just as Ma'at applies to the different aspects of a holistic education, a holistic nation building, a holistic nation time, Ma'at applies to government. And the leaders should be students of Ma'at in that application. Page 45, Manu Ampim shares, it should not be taken for granted that people automatically grow and develop into responsible, community-oriented adults. It should not be taken for granted. Your government needs to be ambitious. Page 51. Envious greed must govern to possess, and ambition must possess to govern. Anything you wish to do in this world, have ambition for it. Have ambition for it. But do not put people who may not be ambitious for it. And this ambition, of course, must be a genuine, true ambition. Not just, oh, I want to play a part. No. I want to know how to apply ma'at, righteousness, justice, to this system, to this government. You know, our ancestors, I wasn't going to share this one, but our ancestors, they spoke about the governing class. Page 14. When the governing class isn't chosen for quality, it is chosen for material wealth. This always means decadence, the lowest stage a society can reach. Now you tell me in the democracies that you know, how often are politicians wealthy? You understand? Not being chosen for quality, but chosen for material wealth. Your ancestors told you this. This will always, always, always mean decadence. The lowest stage a society can reach. Your ancestors explicitly told you that the societies that we are, that this white man wants you to emulate and imitate, are the lowest stages of society. That somehow you want to continue, you want to impose that, the lowest stage of society, on your own people. Please turn to page 189. We talk about the 7 major areas of study for African nation building. Every African should pursue one of these 7 major areas of study for African nation building. One of the 7 are methods of governance and jurisprudence. We can't afford democracies. Democracy is a system. We must return to our culture, our way. We want good leadership. We want leaders, people you can hold accountable. We don't need the corruption in Africa. We don't need the dictators. We don't need the democracies. We don't need the Western intervention, the Western influences, the Eastern intervention or the Eastern influences. We need to turn back on our 90,000 year tradition. We need to review the systems that we had as a people. And though we were fragmented, we know we can come together in a way that serves righteousness, that serves morality, that serves an ethical foundation. And then we can move forward as a Pan-African people, a Pan-African unity under Pan-Africanism. But it must be said again, democracy is their system, their way. And they, spirits of disorder, have not developed a system and cannot develop a system for us, particularly those of us about order. So to answer the old question, should activists in Africa promote democracy? No. No. Thank you for listening. I have a social media, Twitter, Tumblr, WordPress. My Twitter handle, my Twitter and Tumblr handle is Onitaset, ONITASET. My WordPress is AfricanBloodSiblings.wordpress.com. I'm going to start a debate series. I invite anybody to come debate me on any topic of your choosing. We will have a discussion, hopefully come to a good conclusion, and of course I will give you ample time, ample opportunity to prepare your arguments so that we can have an intelligent and fruitful discourse for the benefit of our people. And thank you for listening. I'm doing this program every Saturday, so I hope you listen to the next broadcast. But until that time, please review, share, comment on this video. And also, if you haven't gotten your copy of either the Pro-Black Compendium or Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa yet, feel free to get your copy. Books are outstanding, and as you can see, you can learn a lot and research a lot. Well, thank you very much. And now we begin the African affirmation. Thank you for listening. I invite you to join hands with your brothers and sisters as we recite the African affirmation together. It's a call and response, so follow my lead. We are an African people, robbed from our homeland, robbed of our names, our languages, our cultures, our religions, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our motherhood, our fatherhood, our selfhood, our nationhood, and our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.